Hi guys, William Morris here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new release from Heavyocity, but this time it's not a sample library, it's actually a plugin, and it's all based around distortion. So this plugin is available in VST3 format, AAX format, and also AU. It is 64-bit only, so anyone that's still on a 32-bit DAW won't be able to use this, but I'm guessing by this point most people are going to be on a 64-bit DAW anyway. It's currently on intro price for $99, and that's going to move up to $119. There's also a discount for the owners of Heavyocity's previous Distortion plugin, which is Punish and Punish Lite. So here's the UI, which I have to say I absolutely love. It's really clean, really well sort of laid out. You've got access to pretty much everything you want without doing too much sort of menu diving or lots of side scrolling as well. It's also pretty intuitive. I've not had to dive into the manual or watch any walkthroughs or anything at all, and I've still kind of understood the flow of things, which I think is a good sign. So to try and demonstrate what the plugin can do, I've laid out a few different examples on different sort of instruments. And what I'll do is let you have a listen to each of them in turn, and then we can kind of play with some of the controls and see where we get to. I'll do a quick tour of the UI first. It is resizable, which is really nice. It looks really crisp, really clean. I'm on a sort of 2K monitor, and it looks really nice even at the biggest size. This is the smallest size here, so if you're on a really tiny screen, it's going to be filling up quite a bit of it, but you do kind of need that space because as you can see, you've got all these options here on the left and the right, and a few more menus in here, which I'll dive into in a second. So really quickly, just at the top, we have our presets browser. So we have an initial patch, and then we've got drums, essentials, experimental, guitars and bass, keys and synth, and some rhythmic ones, which I'll get onto later because these are really cool, really interesting ones. On the left-hand side, we have the main drive control. So that's going to be your gain control, how much distortion's there. Then underneath that, we have the amount of movement, which is related to this mod control tab, which I'll go into later. That one's going to be a bit of a new one on some people, as it was on me, because it's kind of a newer control. Tone control is controlling this tone section here. And then there's also a wet-dry mix control, as well as a option to invert the phase of the distorted signal. Really handy having a wet-dry mix on distortion, so you can do some sort of parallel processing stuff. Under that, we have our input level control and output level control, and also output mode. So you have a few options. We have hard clip and soft clip, so that's just the shape of the clipper. We have through, which is no alteration at all, like just as a pass through straight to the output stage. And then we have a limiter as well. The way the distortion works is that it kind of flows from left to right. So our signal comes into the drive mode section here. And this is kind of like almost like a preamp section. So from the drive mode section, it then goes into the distortion mode. And here we've got all our different distortion flavors. And handily, each one has a nice little info box, which will tell you a bit more about it. I will say there's a really broad range here. So if anyone's thinking this is a soft saturator plugin or only a really harsh distortion overdrive kind of thing, it does have a really wide kind of use case, which is great to have in one place. Final section is the tone shaping. So as you can see on the patch at the minute, it's just set to a high cut, and that's going to be controlled by this control here. So we've got high cut, low cut. We have EQ tilt, so that's going to roll off the low end and boost the high by the same amount. We have Big Fuzz, which is the tone controls from a Big Muff pedal. We have Mid, which is obviously going to give you mid emphasis. It's almost like a bandpass set to the mid. And then the final one is Resample, which is a bit like a bit crusher type thing. So that's the UI. Let's jump into some of the examples now. The first one I've got is just a sort of string swells patch, so it's just swelling some chords in and out. This is what it sounds like with Fiori bypassed. It's a really nice kind of lush, warm string sound, which we're going to basically dirty up with this mellow tape preset, which I've tweaked a little bit as well. So here it is with the plugin engaged. So this is it in its kind of mellower, more just saturation sort of mode. So obviously the mellow setting helps with that, and also the high cut, which is taking off a lot of that top end from the bypassed example. And then for the distortion mode, we're in the tape section. So we're kind of doing some tape saturation. It's not full on distortion. It's just a bit more push and kind of warmth. But I think it sounds really nice. And I do love this little animation as well, which happens. So let's just give you an idea of a few of the controls on this one. So quite subtler on the drive on this one. Let's dial back the mix a little bit. And we can take off some of that high cut as well. All right, so now I'll just try out some of these drive modes. Yeah, some of these are definitely way too extreme for this kind of gentle string patch, but you get the idea. I'll do these again on some of the more appropriate examples as well, like the drums and synths and stuff. For the distortion mode, there's some really nice kind of variations here, like even different types of tubes and stuff, which I'll just give you an example of. So Tube C's got some real kind of warmth and wornness to it. It's nice diodes. I really like the character of a lot of these distortions. I mean, strings is something that I wouldn't normally, well, strings like this anyway, is something I wouldn't distort massively, but I really like how much kind of variation you can get in some of the saturation modes here. All right, let's do another example. So we'll mute these strings off, and I've got a drum patch. So this is the drums just clean with the plugin bypassed. And now let's engage. So as you can hear, it's got such a wide kind of range on it, and I absolutely love that. The way it breaks up just, to me, sounds sort of really musical. And that's on one of the harsher ones, so we're pushing it pretty hard on a lot of these examples with the drums, just to give you an idea. But let's cycle through some of the distortion modes. So that's the mellow one that we used before on the string patch. Rat kind of fuzz pedal, which is pretty cool. Gives it a lo-fi sort of thing. Mid push. Nice. Yeah, really extreme. Obviously, you're going to notice the difference in the distortion modes when the drive's up higher. But yeah, I do love how many different sort of characters you can get out of this distortion. You can also edit further as well in the shape tab here. So this is where we have a stereo option, so we can do mid-side, and we can also do a left-right balance change. There's an input gate, so basically gating before distortion. There's also an input EQ where you can tweak highs and lows, but probably the biggest change is going to be this character section here. So this way we can introduce some really cool kind of feedback effect, and we can also tie that in to the gate control, and also this character control here, which is a bit more tone shaping as well. Final section is just a cleanup and a shrillness control. So it's set different for different presets, but I think the general one is kind of removing some low mid mud, like around 300. And then you just kind of turn it up to scoop more of that mud out. And the shrillness control just helps control some of that harshness up in the high end. So let's just have a play with a couple of those. This brings me on to the one kind of gripe I have with this, is that the output is all over the place, because you're really kind of able to add so much gain and feedback to stuff. It'd be really nice if there was some sort of automatic output compensation. Yeah, it's kind of annoying to have to keep dive back to the output control, so anything that could be done to add a sort of automatic gain compensation would be very welcome. All right, so I'm going to jump into another drum one now, but this one's going to use some of the rhythmic control stuff. So it's the same underlying drum sound. And as soon as I turn the plugin on there, you can actually hear what it's doing already. I'm using the mod section, and here we have the envelope follower, LFO and sequence. And this does sync to your DAW's host tempo as well, including the rate controls and everything like that. So yeah, let's get the drum part actually started as well. get some really wacky kind of rhythmic effects going, which is really nice to sort of add along to rhythmic parts, or maybe even static parts that you want to add a bit of rhythm to. This is something I'm definitely going to be playing some more with, because it's not something I've seen on other kind of distortion plugins before, and I do have quite a few. This envelope follower is sort of less of a rhythmic thing and more sort of just how the distortion relates to the envelope of the sound that you're using it on. So you've got attack and release control, so you can kind of control how the distortion hits, if that makes sense, whether you want it to kind of hit for the transient and then come out, or kind of have it the other way around. But yeah, really cool, and there's a whole section in the presets for some of these rhythmic ideas. And just to give you an idea, let's turn it back on and then cycle through some of these. So I think we're on the first one anyway, so let's have a listen. Nice, yeah. These are really cool, and I think you'd probably get even more out of them adding them to stationary patches as well, to add some movement to something that doesn't have it already. So yeah, that's the drums. Let's take a listen to some synths now. So I have this sort of synth lead kind of sound. Here's the natural version. And let's add some fury in. I just love how it brings out all those sort of upper harmonics and stuff as well, and I'm kind of enhancing that with the feedback on the sequence thing here as well. So it's disabled. This one's making use of that broken valve distortion mode, which yeah, I really like. Let's move on, try another synth bass patch. And as you can hear, this one's got another rhythmic element with the LFO going. I'll just disable Fury and we can take a listen to it bypassed. Some serious bass on this one. do kind of wish that it would follow almost like the transport controls on your door, so that you're not left with that LFO sound sort of kicking through in the background. But yeah, I just love the way this thing sounds. It's really, really fun to play with. All right, I've just got a couple more examples. So this one's a kind of synth art patch. So this is it with Fury disabled. The way it breaks up is just really, really nice. All right, we'll just do one more because I don't want this video to be way too long, but I did want to try and show it on at least a few different instrument types so you can get an idea for how it sounds. And I'm probably using maybe some of the more extreme examples just to show you kind of where it can go. But it really does the subtler side of stuff really nicely as well. So this is just a simple bass line. This is with Fury disabled. Enabled. So I'm just bringing out those kind of upper mids, giving a bit more cut, which would be something I'd probably maybe think of using in a mix if I couldn't quite hear it under some other stuff. So I just cycle it on and off. This one's using the clean setting in the drive mode, that broken valve one again, and tilt, so it is pushing up the mids and highs and rolling off some of that low mid and low end. But yeah, I'll leave it there for the examples. Hopefully that's enough to kind of give you an idea of how it sounds. But it really is incredibly flexible and also very fun to flick through the different examples. So before I do my conclusion, I think I should probably lay out my distortion credentials as they are. I'm actually a really heavy user of saturators and distortion plugins. I've even got a collection of guitar pedals that I use, from fuzzes and distortions and overdrives, that I kind of use all the time on stuff to add some dirt or generally sort of mangle things up as well. But I think what Fury does is so well is to blend all those different distortions into one really simplified, easy to use plugin that honestly sounds as good as a lot of the stomp boxes I have, in terms of being really sort of characterful and having settings that go sort of quite extreme as well, so you can have a lot of fun on the sound design side of things. So sort of given that strength, I can actually see Fury becoming a bit of a go-to plugin for me because it does so much in one place. And I absolutely love the UI. I think it's got to be probably one of the best plugin UIs I've seen in a long time. I think my only real gripe is just I would have loved to have seen some auto level compensation for the output, so that when you go from maybe sort of some of the mid type distortions to something really aggressive, you're not getting these big volume jumps that you have to kind of constantly compensate for in the output. But other than that, I love this thing. I'm going to use it all the time. It does probably 90% plus of what a lot of my other distortion plugins do, but it's all in one space and it's got an amazing UI, so I couldn't really ask for more. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this review, guys. I don't do many plugin ones, so I hope the format of this was okay. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments. But if not, I'll see you again on the next one.